What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to y'all as often as possible with as many interviews as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share it, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one, and we appreciate your support in getting us this far. Now, today, we have the honor and the privilege of being joined by Locksmith. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Man, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes. I've known Locksmith for years now. Been following his career. He's always got a lot of good stuff going on. And recently, he had the Lock Sessions Volume 3, which I was a big fan, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to hit him up, because he's got so much on there that is not only timely, but I would argue timeless.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, definitely. So this is Volume 3. The first installment came out getting close to a decade ago. So with the Lock Sessions, why did you decide, of all your projects, because you have so many, why did you decide this one was going to be the one that ended up being a series?
Well, so it started, so the Lock Sessions Volume 1, that was 2016 when that came out. And I was working on, I think my next album at that time would have been Olive Branch. So, but at the same time, I wasn't ready to put it out. I was like taking my time. But I wanted to just rap. So I was just like, okay. I remember I was staying in New York at the time, and I was staying at a friend's house, and I was just like, you know what? I got these beats. I just want to just go off. I just want to have kind of like mixtape style. So I just started recording songs. It was just happening really quick. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this out before I put out my next project. And I wanted to do like a lot of the videos, a lot of the recordings I was doing like one take, So I just wanted to record it. So I was like, it's like the Lock Sessions. It just kind of came. So when I did that in 2016, I released 2 projects since then, or 2 or 3 albums. I did the one with Apollo Brown. I did, 2 full albums. And then in 2019, I was on the road a lot. And I wasn't working on no music. Like I hadn't worked on any music in 2019, like any new music. I was just like, I think I did like 3 tours, like back to back to back. And I was just itching to work on new songs. So then by the time it got to like the end of 2019, I started working on songs, and I was kind of getting in the groove. And then like the whole pandemic, COVID happened. So I was just like, man, this is weird. But I wanted to get songs out, but I was just like, it doesn't quite feel like time to be releasing an album. I'm going to just start releasing these songs one by one, just not really thinking about it, just doing freestyles, whatever I want to do, just one verse all the way through if I want it, just do it like that. So I started doing that, and and I did something that I hadn't ever did before. I started releasing the songs as I was recording them, as I was making them. I didn't really like take time to kind of like, I was just like, oh, that feels good. Let's just put it out, record, freestyle. So that's how we end up having the Lock Session. Although some of the songs I had worked on before, like I had some songs with like Xzibit and Razcast, some songs with, like different people that I had before. But I was like, okay, those were going to be for the album. But I was like, you know what, this just kind of feels raw. Let's just go with it. So I was just kind of recording songs in real time and releasing them as I kind of saw fit. And that's how we got the Lock Sessions Volume 2. And then Volume 3 was just kind of like a continuation of that, things that were going on. I was like, look, I'm going to rap about it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it out and kind of follow that same format.
Okay. Well, yeah, on Volume 2, you had the With God with Xzibit and Razcast and Brevi, and that one I love, which we'll get to in a minute. But given that you had put out so much music, what was it like? Granted, you're touring, but back in 2019, what was it like to not be actively making music and recording? Was that strange? Did you enjoy it? Like, what were you going through mentally?
Yeah, you know what? It was weird. It was like, because I feel like I had understood that cycle, because you kind of like, you release an album, you go on the road. For me, I can write a little bit and work a little bit when I'm on the road, but for the most part, you're going from city to city. It can be mentally, physically draining when you're on the road. But that year, it was the full year. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, all right, half the year. All right, now I'm going to lock in the fall. It was like, nope, you touring all the the whole time. So it was kind of weird. I was just like craving to get in the studio. It was good because I started getting ideas, but at the same time, for me, I felt a little out of rhythm. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it's like every time I go back in the studio, every time I start recording, it's like you want to get back into that rhythm and that flow, and being just kind of like out on the road, you're in performance mode. So it's kind of good and bad. It's like when you're on the road, you're just like, you're itching to get back in the studio. But when you're in the studio, you're creating stuff because you want to get back on the road,
Interesting. Yeah, because as you know, I've been following you since Frontline. So it's just interesting that you put out so much music that you wouldn't have worked on it for a long period of time. So just interesting to me.
Yeah, because once you get in that groove, it just happens. And I would say, just to kind of like, one thing that I hadn't done before, like everything with the Lock Sessions Volume 2 and 3, I basically recorded at home because we were locked down, so it was just like, all right, you know what? We can't go nowhere. I got no choice, what I mean? I could just kind of sit at home and just be creative and just like, just channel whatever frustrations or whatever energy I have or whatever, however I feel like I can just channel into music, because there's nothing going on. There's no parties going on. There's no shows. So you can just put it all into music. So that was one of at least the silver lining in the whole situation.
Yeah. And this is going to tie into a lot of what I find interesting about Lock Sessions Volume 3 in particular, which we'll get to now. So with Survival, which kicks off the project, you talk about learning from fake people and how you took lessons from things you learned as a child. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I think is always interesting is when people acknowledge that they are able to learn from a bad situation. Mm-hmm. So how and when did that realization kick in for you?
To me, I feel like it's constant. I just feel like every situation you just kind of learn a little bit from, is wisdom, I mean, it could go all the way back from high school, playing high school basketball and having one coach and learn, you know what I mean? And then going to college and, starting off in music, like hopefully like you learn from your experience. I believe that's how you gain wisdom, right? So, I mean, I've been in so many different situations, like you said, with Frontline, releasing music and having success in the Bay Area and being able to perform and do tours. And then the game kind of switched. We had a lot of success, particularly from radio play. We were on the radio, and that was like right off the gate. As soon as we put out records, we were like on the radio. We're getting like 40, 50 spins a week on, on radio. And it was like, oh, this is amazing. We're performing in clubs, and I had never toured before, So we thought this was the rap game. You stand outside, you go to a club, you perform in front of 500, 600 or 1,000 people. They know all the words to your songs because it's on the radio. You don't have to do anything. It's just a big party. Then, that lasted a few years, but then after a while, the game starts changing. The internet starts happening. Everything starts going online. I mean, obviously the internet was around, but everything started moving like towards social media, YouTube, and online. And this is like, oh, okay, like, how do you figure this out? And have them learning to adjust and be like, okay, how can I take my experiences before and apply it to this now? And even going back into the battle rapping arena, like that was something I kind of did because I was just like, all right, well, I don't know what to do next. But battle rapping seems like, that's when the battles start moving on online to YouTube. I was like, all right, well, I want to get back involved with that. That'll be a good way to kind of like reinsert myself into the online social media world as far as like, Locksmith as a brand. So I don't know. I just try to learn from all those experiences, Yeah,
and I think it's important for people to realize that, because I think there's often a stigma of learning in school, but we learn from everything we do if we're paying attention, at least. So absolutely. Also on Survival, you talk about your profession being your protective armor. Mm-hmm. And I wanted you to break down like what you mean by that and how that's evolved over the years.
That's a good question. I guess for a long time, especially once, I want to say since about 2015, since I put out my Lofty Goals, I just kind of just like buried myself in music. You know what I mean? Like that was like And I'm still like that to a certain extent, but I just didn't allow for myself to just be like, have any other kind of life other than that. You know what I mean? It was just like, all right, I just got to get this thing going. I got to, I got to make this music. I got to get out on the road. How do I get out on the road? How do I tour? How do I do these things? Let me focus on that. Let me focus on that. So that was my way of just like kind of shielding the world from me. Like, you know what I mean? Any kind of personal situations, whether it be like, romantic, whether it be friendships, I just really was just like, I was just focused on my career. So that was just like, kind of like my shield to whatever was going on, because I felt like I just needed to have tunnel vision on that. But, that's not reality in a sense. You can do that only for so long, but at some point in time, you have to learn how to maneuver in the real world as well as have a career. And I think that comes with, with maturity, with wisdom. And I'm still learning how to do that. But that was, I guess, yeah, that's what that line means. It's like, kind of seeking refuge and just like focusing on my career. I mean, I'm still like that. Whatever goes wrong, I'm like, you know what? Well, I can make a song about it. You know what I mean? Let me focus in on that. Let me hone my skills.
Well, speaking on that, directly ties into something I'm very intrigued about is your evolution as a songwriter, because I think as time has gone on, I think you have improved in that, but I also think you've had a much wider range of subject matter as your career has progressed. And Lock Sessions Volume 3, we're going to talk about in a second too. A lot of political stuff you do, a lot of, I think you've evolved in my opinion, brilliantly, to where you're addressing a lot of personal stuff, a lot of political stuff, a lot of heavy subject matter, even though you also have this super heavy battle rap background. So how and when or why do you remember things kicking or switching to where you were able to really navigate these different lanes subject matter wise?
Well, I think when you just look at the evolution as an artist, me particularly, when I first started rapping, it was because I just loved rap. I wanted to be a dope rapper. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to learn how to just rap good, That's your whole seasoning process when you're learning to do that. And then I think I got to a point where I felt comfortable, not complacent, but comfortable, like in the sense of like, okay, you know what? I learned how to rap. Now, how do I convey a message? Like how do I talk about what I want to talk about? So now, although also I'm trying to improve my, my technical skill level, but for the most part, I think my biggest challenge is what do I want to say? Like, what do I have to say? How do I tap into that? And I feel like, to me, that's become more important, or as important, if not more important, than just, showcasing that I can rap. Of course, that's a great thing. I mean, that's what hip hop is, of course, but I believe that hip hop and music, and it's about, what do you have to say? Like, you have something to say. So before I even when I'm like rapping to be rapping, I still feel like I'm saying something. You know what I mean? Like there's an underlying, there's something there where I'm talking about something, whether it's personal, whether it's political. And you just want to pull from those things. So I just think it's just, as you get older, as you mature, you getting that wisdom, you're going to talk about things that matter to you. And I feel like that's when I'm at my best, when it comes out, when it's like something that really means something. Like, yeah, I can fake some stuff sometimes, but to me, it's just like, I can tell. And I feel like fans know when you're sincere. So when you're rapping about something that you sincerely are passionate about, it's going to come through in your music. And I feel like that's the best music. So I just feel like you got to tap into that.
No, I agree. And I think with the Lock Sessions Volume 3, one of my favorite examples of that is Let Me Breathe, and how you're breaking down how Black masculinity is viewed, and also on a bigger scale, needing to question everything. So why do you think people who seem like they want to question everything then will fall for some of this most ridiculous stuff? Like that's always confused me of people. On the one hand, people seem very cynical, but then they're like, but that lie, I'm all for that. Like, what? Like, how did you, like, what are you talking about?
Yo, I feel like that's so prevalent nowadays, just with like social media, and it's so much information that it's bad for you. You know what I mean? Because people don't I mean, I'll just give an example. This is just my personal opinion. It's like, people will question the news, CNN, Fox. And I said, that's all lies, but you believe everything you see on YouTube. Like, I don't understand. Like, you believe any book or any, like, you have to use, reasoning, common sense to, like, what I mean? Like, observe. But some people are just like, if they're so fed up with one thing, then they'll just believe anything from the next thing. It's like, well, like, that hasn't been vetted either. Like, you have to use your mind. And some people, I don't know. Yeah, I don't get that. But with that particular song, I mean, it's a rap song, so I can only, phrase it in so many ways. But it's like, yeah, you question everything, but you have to use your own reasoning. Just because you question everything, you're not going to believe everything else, You
would hope.
You would hope. Yeah.
You would hope. Yeah, fair enough. And I thought Dope, since you do have several guest appearances on the Lock Sessions Volume 3 with Dope, I really appreciated it because how Neelam, is that how you say her name?
Neelam,
Neelam, how she was saying about TikTok is a class teaching the world to be Black. Mm-hmm. So as someone who's a supreme lyricist yourself, when you hear someone you're on a song with say something like that, how does that, what's your reaction? How does that affect you?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, Neelam, with that particular song, I mean, I just sent her the beat. I was like, yo, what do you think of this beat? And I gave her the concept, the idea, and she was like, I love it. I'm on it. So she actually wrote her verse first. And I started part of my verse before I heard her, but I was just like, okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And then when I heard her verse, I was like, okay, perfect. We on the same page. You know what I mean? Like, this is perfect. And then I went ahead and finished mine. So I was ecstatic, man. I mean, she's dope. I'm just a fan of hers from just social media, seeing her kill it and, talk about things where I feel like we line up in the same, in the same way. So I felt like it was just easy for us to make a song. Like, that was simple.
And also on Dope, you let her have an extremely long first verse, which I was also interested in. So was that part of the discussion, or is that just what she ended up delivering?
No, I just like, do your thing. You know what I mean? Like, I just gave her the beat. Like, I don't try to, I mean, unless I kind of built the song around, I just kind of, like I said, I sent her the beat and the concept and I let her do her thing. And then I was just like, okay, now I'm going to like, just kind of complete it and just like, because I co-produced like that track as well. So I had the idea for that beat. And because it's actually, I took it from a sample. What is it from? But my boy was playing around with some drums and I saw, and he sent me this track and I was like, oh no, he was doing it online. I was like, yo, send me that. And then I took it and me and my other guy, we played like some keys on it and had like some sample and kind of like built the beat around it. So whenever I'm like putting together a record like that, I always want the artist to shine. I want the best out of the artist. I'm like, I mean, of course I want to do my thing. But when people are like, yo, they killed that or they killed that song, I'm like, good, that's what I want. Like, I want them to kill it. I want them to sound as amazing as possible because I feel like that's going to make the best song, So I was just like, once I heard what she did, I was like, okay, that's perfect. That's the goal, mission accomplished.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.